On Earth, there are places where nature has never given way to humanity. Imagine a land larger than Japan, lying directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where the ground is constantly shifting and life exists on the edge of survival. Yet this land remains almost invisible on the world's tourism map. Why has a place so magnificent been forgotten for centuries? Some call Kamchatka the Iceland of Asia, but it is wilder, harsher, and more primordial than anything you could imagine. Welcome to Russia's final frontier, Kamchatka, where the Earth is still being born every single day. Gorely volcano opens more like a geological cross-section than a mountain. Standing about 1,829 meters high, it has no clear central peak, only a fragmented structural zone where form is broken from the very way it exists. Over more than 38,000 years, Gorely has continuously restructured itself. Eruptions, collapses, and new formations overlap, creating more than 11 craters and vents within a single system, a rarity among individual volcanoes. The terrain resembles a surface that has been crushed and reassembled. Deep pits, layered craters, and dark gray-brown rock give the entire massif a dry, fragmented, and visually and emotionally difficult presence. Gorely volcano does not invite conquest. Its value lies in its ability to force observation rather than advance, revealing that natural chaos also has structure and that not every place exists to be overcome. Shiveluch volcano exists as an entity that is never complete. Standing about 3,283 meters high and carrying an age of more than 60,000 years, this mountain does not remain in a fixed form, but continuously builds and destroys itself, as if testing its own limits. Powerful explosive activity combined with rapidly developing lava domes keeps Shiveluch in a constant state of tension. Viscous lava accumulates, swells, then collapses suddenly, releasing large amounts of energy in unpredictable cycles and maintaining a prolonged state of danger. The landscape carries a heavy and rough character. Ash, debris, and old lava cover the surface, forming continuous dark gray-brown tones that make the entire massif appear torn apart and endlessly restructured. Shiveluch volcano does not need close approach to make an impression. Simply observing from a distance is enough to make people feel small, understanding that some forces exist not to be conquered, but to remind us when to stop. Dubrovnik sits on the Adriatic coast, formed by limestone ridges and deep sea that together create a naturally fortified landscape. The old city is surrounded by walls more than 1 mile long, built in the 13th century and never breached. Once known as Ragusa, the city existed as an independent republic from the 14th to the 19th century, surviving the storms of history while trading across the Mediterranean. Maritime commerce and subtle diplomacy allowed it to remain autonomous without fully yielding to surrounding empires. Within the old town, many Baroque palaces and churches still stand, even after the devastating earthquake of 1667 and the trials of war. Local stone and solid construction have preserved its architecture remarkably well. Mutnovsky volcano appears as a complex stratovolcano, standing about 2,323 meters high, distinguished not by elevation, but by a tangled and unpredictable structure. The mountain immediately creates a sense of instability when faced directly by people. Multiple active craters operating at the same time prevent eruptive behavior from concentrating on a single summit, forcing scientists to maintain constant monitoring. Intense geothermal activity repeatedly releases gas, steam, and volcanic material. The natural architecture of layered crater systems turns the entire surface into a torn geological labyrinth. Numerous pits, fissures, and vents create a feeling of chaos, as if the mountain were disintegrating from within. Mutnovsky volcano allows people to sense the earth breathing without waiting for a major eruption to prove its vitality. This place is not meant for habitation, but for observation, for learning respect, and for leaving quietly. Starichkov Island appears as a small volcanic rock mass, compressed tightly between the sea, where the area is only about half a square kilometer yet leaves no impression of smallness. There is no space for relaxation, as every element is pressed closely together: rock, waves, and living creatures. Its entirely volcanic origin means the island's terrain consists almost exclusively of steep cliffs. There is no fresh water and no flat surface, leaving the entire island exposed to cold winds and continuous wave action from all directions. The visual space is filled with movement. Hundreds of thousands of seabirds nest within a very limited area, covering the cliffs and the air with sound, motion, and constant presence. Starichkov Island does not offer a welcoming sensation to humans. It exists as an independent living mass, where nature holds absolute priority and small size does not equate to gentleness. South Kamchatka Nature Park opens as a vast natural space in the southern part of the peninsula, where land, volcanoes, and sea coexist within a structure that is almost uninterrupted. Its scale of more than 3,000 square kilometers makes it difficult for humans to grasp in a single, ordinary view. This area lies within an active tectonic and volcanic zone, featuring young and rough terrain where rock, ash, and volcanic soil shape the surface. Within a relatively short distance, the landscape can shift from plateau to rocky coastline. The open space and minimal signs of human presence allow natural elements to appear directly. Volcanoes become the primary visual axis, governing the perception of distance and depth across the entire landscape. South Kamchatka Nature Park exists as land meant to preserve its own operational rhythm. Its value lies in restraint, where nature is protected by not being forced to serve human needs. Nalychevo Nature Park creates the sensation of stepping into a vast basin where the air itself seems held in place by the surrounding volcanic rims. The space is open enough to breathe, yet enclosed enough to make people keenly aware of natural boundaries. An area of about 2,650 square kilometers allows the landscape to shift continuously, from low plains to steep mountain slopes within a short distance. Everything is formed upon young geology, where volcanic ash and rock still dominate the surface. Geothermal heat exists quietly within the valley, with hot springs scattered throughout. Volcanoes do not merely stand as a backdrop, but govern direction, perspective, and the overall spatial experience. Nalychevo Nature Park does not overwhelm immediately. Its value lies in slow accumulation, where the valley retains energy rather than releasing it outward. Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky formed as a city pressed tightly between deep sea and active volcanoes. Facing the Pacific Ocean directly while backed against steep and unstable terrain, the urban space constantly carries a sense of being enclosed. Built upon young volcanic ash and rock, the city lies within one of the strongest seismic zones in Russia. Earthquakes are not rare events here, but a baseline condition that forces architecture and daily life to adapt over the long term. The urban structure does not follow a grid, but clings closely to the terrain. Streets curve, buildings step along hillsides, and volcanoes remain present on the skyline as a living part of the landscape. Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky does not impress through comfort. Its value lies in resilience, where people learn to live alongside risk rather than attempting to remove it. Valley of Geysers appears in Kamchatka as a valley that does not allow anyone to forget that the ground itself can be alive. It is one of very few places on Earth where more than 90 geysers operate at the same time, densely packed within a narrow and steep space. The origin of this entire system is extremely powerful geothermal energy. Groundwater is heated deep beneath the surface, builds pressure, and then erupts upward according to its own cycle. No two geysers are completely alike, keeping the surface in a constant state of anticipation. The valley terrain is sharply incised, with geysers positioned close to one another along its depth. Steam rises continuously from multiple points, keeping the landscape in slow motion and creating the sensation that the ground is breathing directly underfoot. The Valley of Geysers naturally forces people to slow their pace. Here, danger does not need to announce itself through height or sound, but lies in the ever-present possibility that the ground may erupt at any moment. Avachinsky volcano imposes its presence as a highly active stratovolcano, standing about 2,741 meters tall, yet making people feel far heavier pressure than the number suggests. The mountain does not display violence openly, but exists in a restrained and oppressive silence that makes anyone standing before it struggle to feel safe. For more than 10,000 years, Avachinsky has continuously undergone cycles of major eruptions, collapse, and reconstruction. Its crater is sealed by a solid lava plug, forming a structure like a massive locked tower, where silence is accumulative rather than restful, constantly creating a sense of suppressed tension for observers. This locked structure allows the mountain to shift from a quiet state to violent eruption within a short period of time. Its asymmetrical shape, slopes covered with sharp volcanic rock, and dark gray tones make the entire mass appear rough, cold, and unapproachable. Facing Avachinsky volcano, the emotional impact does not come from eruption, but from anticipation. This place makes people realize that danger does not need to be obvious, and that the experience here is about learning respect, caution, and humility before a compressed and restrained force of nature. Koryaksky volcano rises upward like a stratovolcano, standing nearly 3,456 meters tall, dominating the surrounding space with a slender and sharp silhouette. That massive scale makes people immediately sense solemnity, as if the mountain is always. With an age of more than 7,000 years, the mountain was formed through multiple cycles of major eruptions and lava accumulation. Its tall, elongated conical architecture makes Koryaksky appear like an upright block of stone, unwilling to compromise with the surrounding scenery. An average slope of 30 to 40 degrees increases natural risk. The surface, covered with dark gray volcanic rock, ancient ash, and a dormant yet not extinguished state, creates a sense of continuous and prolonged tension. Koryaksky volcano reminds us that beauty does not equal absolute safety. The experience here leans toward observation and self-restraint, leaving with deep respect for a mountain that is beautiful, yet distant and quietly unapproachable. Yelizovo appears as a rare breathing space within the intense terrain of Kamchatka, where an open valley replaces the familiar steep volcanic slopes. This broad and relatively stable flatland determined the city's role from the very beginning. The city developed on river sediments, mixed with volcanic ash, young in geological terms, yet far easier to manage than many coastal areas. Although still located within a strong seismic zone, its low-rise structure helps reduce risk and maintain long-term balance. Yelizovo does not need to stand out in order to endure. Its resilience comes from accepting a supporting role, a place where Kamchatka's larger movements pass through without needing to stop. Vilyuchinsk formed as a city pressed tightly between deep sea and young volcanic slopes, where steep terrain forces human life to contract inward. From the very way space expands, the city carries a constant sense of limitation imposed by the surrounding natural environment. Direct exposure to the Pacific Ocean makes the sea an ever-present element, while behind the city stands an active volcanic system. Earthquakes and uneven ground conditions require every structure to prioritize safety above all else. Vilyuchinsk does not impress through appearance. What remains is a sense of acceptance as people learn to exist within a space that does not allow display or unrestricted expansion. Nalychevo appears deep within the interior of Kamchatka, where the terrain unexpectedly opens into a broad river plain instead of the familiar violent volcanoes and coastlines. This position caused the settlement to take on an early sense of stability, like a geographical step back within a highly dynamic peninsula. Unaffected directly by the ocean, the area developed on river sediments mixed with older volcanic ash. Although it still lies within an active seismic zone, the intensity is generally lower than along the coast, allowing for low-rise architecture and a spread-out living environment. Nalychevo does not represent the intense Kamchatka often described. Its value lies in inland endurance, acting as a point of balance for the entire peninsula from within. Ust-Kamchatsk exists at the point where the longest river of Kamchatka ends its journey, where fresh water has no choice but to merge directly into the cold sea. This position gives the settlement a constant outward orientation, as if everything is waiting for the next movement to occur. The terrain is low and young, formed from river alluvium mixed with marine sediment, causing the ground to never truly remain still. Flooding, strong winds, and shifting water levels are baseline conditions rather than unusual events, forcing people to build compactly, low to the ground, and with caution. Ust-Kamchatsk does not attempt to project stability. It holds its place as a point of contact where all elements exist in transition and nothing is considered permanently fixed. Koryaksky Ridge does not appear as a single mountain meant to be admired, but as an extended landform that forces the eye to move horizontally. Peaks connect one after another, with none fully dominating, creating the sense that weight is evenly distributed rather than concentrated. Even when seen from afar, the ridge conveys continuity and inaccessibility. By nature, this is a young mountain range, formed through tectonic activity combined with volcanism. Many peaks rise above 3,000 meters, forming a clear, natural barrier. The ridge directly influences wind and cloud movement, keeping the surrounding space in constant flux, even when the terrain itself appears still. The landscape is distinctly rough. Slopes are steep and fractured, with exposed rock faces stretching continuously and lacking gentle curves. Gray, brown, and cold white tones cover the entire ridge, creating a heavy and enclosed atmosphere. Koryaksky Ridge exists through length and endurance. It does not require a symbolic summit because the entire range already stands as a sufficiently powerful presence. Three Brothers Rocks appear offshore of Kamchatka as three isolated sea stacks standing upright in open water, disconnected from the shore and unshielded by any surrounding landform. From their very shape, the group creates a distinct impression, not massive, not extended, but concentrated and solitary. Geologically, the three pillars, each rising about 40 to 45 meters, are remnants of hard volcanic rock left behind after prolonged erosion. Ocean waves strike from multiple directions, gradually removing softer material and leaving behind rock cores strong enough to remain standing in the sea for a very long time. The landscape around Three Brothers Rocks is minimalist in character. Colors are dominated by dark gray and black, with rough rock surfaces and almost no surface cover. The three columns stand close to one another but are not identical, creating a natural visual rhythm that feels balanced yet slightly unstable. Three Brothers Rocks do not require great height to leave an impression. Their value lies in existing as fixed markers within constantly moving space, where stone chooses stillness as a long-term dialogue with the sea. Khalaktyrsky Beach stretches along the Pacific coast of Kamchatka as a continuous band of black sand where volcanoes and ocean meet face to face, creating an immediate sense of cold weight and openness that is difficult to forget. The beach extends for about 30 kilometers with an average width of 50 to 100 meters. Its sand formed from volcanic basalt ground down over thousands of years by constant erosion under powerful ocean waves. The landscape here is minimal and exposed. The flat surface lacks high dunes, and the black sand absorbs the eye, giving the space a heavy, somber, and isolated feeling, even as the shoreline runs straight along the vast open sea. What lingers is not gentle beauty, but the sensation of standing before a raw shoreline, where volcanic sand and ocean waves coexist over long periods of time. This space forces people to slow down and recognize the material weight of untouched nature. Kuril Lake lies in the southern part of the Kamchatka Peninsula, appearing as a broad and calm water surface that can easily lower human vigilance. This lake formed within a massive volcanic collapse basin after an extremely large eruption approximately 8,000 years ago, an event powerful enough to shape the entire space that exists today. With a diameter of roughly 7 to 8 kilometers and an area of nearly 77 square kilometers, Kuril Lake is neither a tectonic nor a glacial lake. A maximum depth of more than 300 meters gives this body of water a clear geological weight, even though the surface remains flat and difficult to read. The water surface carries tones ranging from deep blue to cold gray, reflecting the volcanic rock beneath. The shoreline is rugged and dominated by rough stone, with an open setting that still creates a sense of enclosure by the steep caldera walls. Bystraya River lies in the western part of the Kamchatka Peninsula, where the landscape opens wide and flowing water remains a clearly visible motion. With a length of about 275 kilometers, this river is not large in scale, yet its fast current makes it stand out among the slower river systems of the region. Bystraya originates in the central volcanic area, receiving water from melting ice and volcanic sediment before flowing toward the Western Sea. The mineral-rich and oxygenated water continuously carries material, forming a system that remains in constant operation. The riverside landscape is wide and open, with banks dominated by gravel and dark grey sediment. In many sections, rapids and visible waves appear, preventing the river from allowing prolonged stillness. The Bystraya River leaves its impression not through scale, but through uninterrupted pace. Its fast flow keeps the surrounding landscape in a state of constant guidance, where everything must adapt or be left behind. Tolbachik volcano lies on the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Russian Far East, where volcanic activity shapes the entire landscape. Rather than rising to be seen, this volcano spreads outward through lava, covering the surface in a quiet yet irreversible manner. With a height of about 3,682 meters, Tolbachik belongs to the rare group of fissure eruption volcanoes. Fluid basaltic lava escapes through elongated fractures, flowing rapidly and covering the surrounding space, creating new terrain layers within a short period of time. The landscape carries a character that is both newly born and harsh. Solidified lava fields form a rough surface, like waves frozen mid-motion, covered in dark grey, brown, black tones that erase all familiar shapes. Tolbachik does not tell a story of grandeur, but of replacement. It shows that the Earth can change form without violent explosions, only through the persistent spread of endlessly flowing lava. Avacha Bay lies on the eastern coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula, opening to the Pacific Ocean through a marine space that is vast yet never empty. It is one of the largest natural bays in the world, with an area of about 215 square kilometers, large enough to accommodate hundreds of large vessels at the same time. The structure of the bay forms an inverted funnel with a narrow entrance and an interior that opens deeply into the land. An average depth ranging from 26 to 30 meters, with some areas exceeding 40 meters, makes Avacha Bay both accessible and spatially weighty. Volcanic slopes and dark cliffs line both sides of the bay, enclosing deep blue and calm water. The space offers long sight lines while simultaneously creating a sense of containment through its naturally enclosed terrain. Avacha Bay does not convey a feeling of complete freedom. Its vastness is always paired with limits, reminding observers that the sea, too, can be shaped and restrained by nature. Klyuchevskaya Sopka rises like an extraordinary mark of the earth, a place where people immediately feel themselves grow smaller. With a height of about 4,750 meters and a constantly changing form, this mountain exists like a living entity, refusing stability or familiarity. For more than 7,000 years, it has never truly fallen silent. Repeated eruptions occurring every few years keep the mountain in a constant process of rewriting its own history, making it one of the natural phenomena most persistently observed by humans. Its nearly symmetrical stratovolcano shape makes it resemble a colossal structure built by time itself. Layer upon layer of lava, ash, and rock accumulated over many millennia form a geological tower that is orderly yet rough, familiar to the eye, yet difficult to believe. Standing before Klyuchevskaya Sopka, emotions are often unclear, a trace of fear, mixed with a sense of attraction. This place feels like a pressure gauge of the Earth's crust, reminding humanity that the planet is always in motion, and that our existence is only a very small moment.